Hey everybody, it's Drew Racy, and I'll be your anchor for this evening. I've inked DC, Marvel, Crossgen, Dark Horse, IDW, Image, and a lot in between. This episode I'm going to focus on a fairly obscure character named Michael Mauser, and I just adore this character because he's hard-boiled, but he's also this shrimpy, cartoonish kind of guy. But through the writing of Nicola Cutie and Max Collins, it works. They take him seriously, and Joe Staton's exaggerated cartoony art, it just fits. They're not shitting on the character. They want real adventures, and that's what makes him a solid character, not a throwaway. He first started in an episode of E-Man. I'm talking TV. But I'm going to jump ahead only because this has a good encapsulation of who Mike Mauser is. Look at that shitty cover binding. It's so crimped. I'm not a snob when it comes to paper, but this reminds me exactly of Alex Ross's Treasury Edition books that came out in the late 90s, where you just turn a page and you got 5, 7, or 8 crimps on each page. Should have gone with a looser, more forgiving paper. I'm just jumping ahead because this gives you the rundown. Nicola Cutie and Joe Staton's Michael Mauser, the world's shortest tough guy, first appeared as a supporting character in E-Man 3, published by Charlton Comics 1973. The character soon outgrew that position by starring in a series of pulp solo adventures in the back pages of another Charlton, Vengeance Squad. I'm going to cover Vengeance Squad in a future episode, because I think it deserves it. When E-Man was revived by First Comics in 1983, Mike Mauser became a more integral part of the series. In 1991, Mauser starred in his own one-shot comic, The New Crime Files of Michael Mauser, Private Eye, published by Apple Comics, which I happen to have. So that's jumping way ahead, though. I'm going to start off with his first appearance. First Comics, as I mentioned in the intro, both First Comics and Eclipse Comics, they were the gold standard for independent comics. DC and Marvel were flooding the market, flooding the shelves as they do, whenever any upstart comic company comes along, and it makes sense. It's just kind of a drag at the same time. So First Comics, they had a killer lineup. It was a murderer's row of talent. I first picked up Howard Chaykin's American Flag. That was the first comic I ever got. And then there's John Sable Freelancers, and then Baron and Rude's Nexus came aboard, and then Mike Barron's Badger, so many others that were great. Anyway, E-Man himself, I had like 2 issues of his from when I was a kid, and I loved the costume, A=MC², and I liked Staton's style at the time, he was brand new on the scene, but he drew in a more ambient color friendly way, more cartoony, but still grounded in reality as far as storytelling. But only thing is, I could never relate to E-Man. His adventures were fun, but I had no sense of stakes when it came to his adventures, because he's basically energy in the form of a man. He's a little naive about Earth and stuff like that, but he's kind of like is somebody who's too damn powerful. It's like Firestorm. It's like Monica Rambeau's Captain Marvel, or the Sentry, that shitty character that Brian Michael Bendis made up for the Avengers. It just made the other characters superfluous. So I got this strictly to get the reprints. I did have the Charlton books. I managed to collect all those issues of Vengeance Squad, but it was just ridiculous. I mean, at the bottom, a lot of times there'd be this horrible, chop effect. I mean, not even just a clear cut. So, first appearance of Mike Mauser. If I were to show you this panel and say Joe Staton drew this, you would call me a motherfucking liar. But he says, "My name is Mauser. That's also the name of my pistol. In my profession, it's the only reliable friend I have. I take care of it. It takes care of me. I'm a private eye, and this is my story." I love that opening line on every episode. Very much like Wolverine's, the best of what I do. What I don't do is, what I do is not very nice. And that's such an odd, clumsy sort of opening panel. But this is Staten, like, just starting out. And this is an image he would probably never use, but a lot of people did because they're trying to be Neil Adams or one of his many clones. But Staten shakes it off fairly quick. And he's just a lovable schmo who tricks people, and he knows who to talk to. This page I like a lot because the woman's eyes, they're almost like manga eyes, but this was in 73 before I think anybody was aware of manga overseas. It wasn't even a thing here till the late 80s. But it reminds me a little of John Byrne in that sense, especially the arm and such. And I think they were I don't think they knew each other. I think they just kind of were going on the same path, and then they diverged where Staten stayed cartoony and Byrne went for the more mainstream style. But he kept that eye effect for a long time, those big wide eyes. Another episode brought to you by the fine folks at First Comics, formerly Vengeance Squad Comics. Another awkward pose, but his awkward poses would start to be fewer and fewer because he was beginning to master his trade. And it's great to see this progression. It really is. This is another reprint. I only bought it for the... And when he became a part of the cast of characters in E-Man, I'm not sharing those with you because they're so short. I mean, it would just take forever and a day for me to share them with you. And a lot of times it was just perfunctory images where he would take care of something using his sleuth smarts. Another one. And hired this girl named Bambi Baxter. This is before Baxter Paper, so I don't know why. I guess it was a fun alliterative name. She had a heavy New York accent, and she couldn't take dictation. I hired her on the spot. I hate know-it-all types. Should I answer the phone? Nah, maybe someone will walk in and answer it for you. Hello, Mauser Detective Agency. Mauser, not Mauser. When is she going to learn? Now, the first time we get a good glimpse of what Staten is going to evolve this character into. Very mole-like with the head and the nose. But he keeps the surroundings natural, so it's not like it's not like a Warner Brothers cartoon where things are zany all over. And although I love Warner Brothers cartoons, much more than Disney cartoons. Disney's just too, I don't know, they're just too friendly. Warner Brothers cartoons had the edge. So it's called Gang War. These, the meeting of the 12 whatever families. Somebody's birthday, waiting for the bombshell to come out of the cake. And it's a literal bomb. Kills him. And he starts, meanwhile Mike is getting situated. His secretary comes in and he's like, how are the karate lessons coming? Are you working your way up to a pink belt? She goes, brown belt. And watch what I can do. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Your only coffee cup. Should I buy you another one? He's like, nah, I think I have I have a used paper one in the file under C. So go make some more coffee, blah, 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 blah. And I just love that. It's probably true. He's just a slob, and that's what makes him so lovable. And, the storytelling gets better, and the plots get deeper. Okay. This is the third and last of the reprints of from Vengeance Squad. So, and this one again, it's the same guys, Nicola and Joe, and George Wildman is editor. Now, he'd been around. I'm trying to think of where else he'd been around, but he was big into Charlton history. So you start to see more and more. It's one of those crime stories that deal with the stage and screen and such. But I love that rain effect. Again, I'm not going to tell you too much because it's a mystery, dudes. Okay, am I done? Yeah, I am. So, I picked this up just because I found him really appealing, and I knew who she was. I never read an issue of Ms. Tree. And he was published by First, and she was published by Renegade Press, and originally published by Aardvark Vanaheim, which was Dave Sims' publishing firm. And but when he and Denny Lubert had a divorce, she got Ms. Tree as a settlement, I guess, for Renegade Press. Love that classic outfit. I don't know if it's 40s or 50s or whatever, but and she always has like really great hair, like a flapper or something. So the PIs, I was like, what the heck? And there wasn't a lot of private eye stuff out there, and still not, because it's they're hard to write. You have to mislead the reader and not, announce what's going on. So Max Collins, regular writer for Ms. Tree, is writing this whole thing. Joe Staten, the penciler, is doing this whole thing. And then Terry Beatty, the regular penciler and inker on Ms. Tree, he's inking it. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And they all together make both characters work. I love when he eats like a slob. So this woman comes in, she's saying her husband's been straying, and here's some money to investigate. Meanwhile, Ms. Tree is like a floor below in a temporary quarters, and she meets the husband, who says, my wife's cheating on me. Now, that's not a very Joe Staten image, but he probably drew it to match Terry Beatty's style. And but it all works. It flows really well. Storytelling is top notch. Still has mustard on him. He's such a slob. You gotta love him. And they met how they were at a comic store and comic shows, and they did fanzines, and they both loved comics. And one day their hands touched, and it was love. So basically, the couple have two different private eyes looking out for each other. There is a Mike Grell center spread. There's some great stuff. So I'm not gonna, I'm just kind of zipping through this stuff. Again, that's Mike Mauser with that. There's no holding line for the cigarette. It's just part of his face. And they run into each other. Warp. That's one thing I really wasn't caring about. After this murder is done of this owner of a comic shop, both the husband and the wife are accused separately of killing the guy. And since they're separate clients, they basically say to each other, your client's a murderer. Look, maybe we should keep an open mind. Talk our respective clients, then compare notes. Lady, if you think I'm throwing in with you on this one, think again. You ain't my idea of a detective after all. You smell too good, you dress too expensive, and you're too damn clean. None of which you've been accused of. So they're heading out to see what's going on. I guess sometimes funny books ain't so laughing matter. I guess sometimes funny books ain't no laughing matter, huh, Ms. Tree? Mauser, I'm not even smiling. Now here's the ad for Ms. Tree, and it was a black and white book. It's really well done. Really well. And let's see, that's issue 3. Okay. And it continues, and there's just a lot of charm. And like I said, it worked as far as getting me into Ms. Tree. So, more fun. There is a Dog Kelly. Don't know what a Dog Kelly is. I just know Mike Grell does great illustrations. There we go. Look at that. Grimjack and all that. Love it. It's basically a comic book story. That's the plot behind it. Who killed the comic store owner? I love that. Take up the whole length of the page with him smoking and thinking a little bit. So you'll believe a man can die. Oh, a great ad from his tree also. And this is still Aardvark Vanaheim. Okay, I'm trying to jump ahead. I don't want to take forever on this. Love this cover. Although I don't know if heels are practical on a fire escape, but I don't care. It's a great book, and both characters are just very rich and enjoyable reads. There is the Wombat. Not to be confused with Mike Barron and Bill Reinhold's Wombat that would be in later on, in Badger. So they're comparing notes again. It's time they go to a bar. And he goes, well, our two clients, the Kirbys, just happen to be there looking guilty. Aren't you thirsty, Mickey? Listen, Tree, I asked you not to call me Mickey, and I'm on the wagon, so maybe I'll have a couple. And sometime later, he has a whole bunch of glasses around. You got a point. So she kind of plays him, but they have a grudging respect for each other. And they end up at a comic convention trying to find some clues. Mike Mist shows up. He was a character that showed up, I think, also in Ms. Tree, where they did Mike Mist's mini mysteries. They were basically a page long, and you got the answer if you turn the page upside down. And, fun little thing. There's another Mike Hammer. Man. And they're at a convention. And a wombat should be hard to spot even in this crowd. Really? And this is way before cosplay became a commonplace thing. Again, great. I mean, I showed that already. Oop. Here's that. Then Mike Mauser's story. On the heels of that, I decided to get this because I found him really interesting, and just there's a lot not known about him. And he talks to being a kid, typical suburban house, typical suburban life. Well, the heck, I can't scan this right now. Son of a bitch. Oh, anyway, seems like a perfect little family, and then his father kills himself in the basement for reasons unknown, and it really messed with Mike's life. And he and his mom had to move out, and his sister as well. So she had no idea how to dress Mike out in the big city. So these thugs are deciding to mess with him, and they beat him up on a daily basis because he's just he's a innocent little fella. But somebody tells him you got to have an edge. So he comes down the street and he's ready to get punched again. He goes, don't fool with me today, Duke. I've been pumping iron. My stomach's hard as a rock. For real? Let's see. Smack. He basically had a board underneath his jacket. That was my first edge, Dookie. And this is my second. Handful of coins. Works every time. That's got to hurt like a motherfucker. So he ends up joining the gang. He's kind of directionless, and his mom's saying, what's going on? You should be studying, da-da-da. He's like, quit nagging me, Mom. And she basically says, I want to know where all that money comes from. And he just takes off. With the gang, they try to break into this gas station, but there's a guard dog. Mauser gets caught, and it's either prison or 4 years in the service. So he goes into service. This was another time, way back when. And he meets some of his friends from the neighborhood, and he buys his first Mauser from one of the South Vietnamese. And he runs into his old pal Duke from the gang he used to hang out with. So, and then shit gets really real. And Dookie gets killed. Blood splatters all over him. And then he just doesn't remember what happens after that. And he just becomes... He's so good at it that he actually will, take point. He'll be a scout. That's how, how much he's gotten into it and how well he has adjusted to military life. But back in the States, civilian life wasn't quite the same. She says, any jobs waiting for you? He goes, are you kidding? I'm a vet and a war hero. There's going to be a million offers out there. I have to take my pick. And he's a dishwasher. Happened to a lot of vets from Vietnam. Sorry, but we don't hire Vietnam vets. Too unreliable. You're a vet. Different war. Cleaner war. Sorry. And becomes a cabbie. And he finds this girl in a strip club who happens to be one of the young girls who looked up to him as Uncle Mike. And she gets blown away because she knows too much. That's all I'm saying. And he decides to avenge her and turn these guys in. Long story. Gets to chase him, but he put up a wire just like he did in Nam. Anyway, everything cleans up. Not very neatly, but Mauser decides, I'll go to school and get a degree as a private eye. It might be the only thing my experience allows me to do. And he gets flashbacks once in a while. And so it's really good stuff, strong stuff. This came out from Kamiko. This is one of those weird comic companies that I think they kind of live hand to mouth for a while, because I think when Matt Wagner introduced Grendel into Kamiko, it was tricky. He ended up having a hard time getting paid because it just didn't last that long. And there's a whole new episode in this. That's the main reason I got it. But it's hard to find, really hard to find. That cover I'm not keen on, but fuck it. If Mike Mauser came out every month and not had a cover I wasn't keen on, I'd still buy it. So now this is really, really great stuff, because Staten decides to play with halftones a lot. He's using not only just pen and ink and cross hatching, but he's also doing a duotone. Let's see if I can get a shot of that. He's also doing duotone shading, say like on these knuckles here, and that's when you ink on a piece of board that has a special chemical in it, and then when you use another chemical that's on your brush, you apply it, it creates this dot pattern. It was used a lot in EC comics in the 50s, and this looks like it took Staten forever. I mean, telling the story is the first hard part, clear storytelling, but to do it in gray tones like that, at a regular comic book size. I mean, if it was a large Creepy or Eerie or one of those kind of magazines, it would be daunting. But he really delivers a great book. So that's about that until like a year or two later. Going back to this. He does more of the same. And I love the elements. I love the rain. He's just playing around with everything. I mean, he's his own influence. He's not someone you can pinpoint and say, oh, well, he borrowed this from that and that. No, he's his own artist. And that's what makes Joe Staten great. So that I covered up the secret. That's the Maze Agency. Paul Pelletier, soon to be a big name at DC. He did this. Adam Hughes had already moved on from the earlier issues, but that's it. I just wanted to show you. There's two later appearances. There's one from Digital Webbing Press and another comic by Neo Charlton that are E-Man, guest starring Mike Mauser, but barely. One of them he's hardly in, and the other one he basically is all cleaned up and he's sitting at the computer and he's trying to get clues and stuff like that, but he's not a slob anymore, so he's really just Mike Mauser in name only. And I know current day detectives, I watch enough of those ID channel, true murder mystery things, and when they start talking about detective, right away you see someone at a computer. Well, I cross-reference this, and he was back in the day when you really had to hoof it. When the phone rang, you didn't know who was on the other end, and that made for a lot of intrigue. And that's something I plan to do soon. I'm planning on doing a Private Eye story based in the 70s because it's much harder to be off the grid these days. Just for a variety of reasons that I don't even have to explain. But anyway, those last 2 issues I mentioned, you can skip them. They're well done. If you want E-Man, excellent E-Man. But this is sort of like the end of the road for our pal Mauser here, and it's a shame. And you saw a few books I showed you, including the Ms. Tree crossover. It would make a great trade paperback, and I don't know how many, not even that many pages, but boy, I'd love to see that. Plus some news stories by Staten, and you never know. But because indies are where it's at these days. I mean, Marvel and DC are kind of, I don't know, they're kind of, I think they're rudderless is what I'm saying currently. And that's why you see so many books from Image and other publishers succeeding. And I wish last time I saw Joe at a convention, I should have had him do a commission for a Mauser image for me. But he did sign a bunch of my Green Lanterns that he had done. He did the John Stewart issues when in the 80s when Hal quit, and then he did the Green Lantern Corps when the title change of Green Lantern Corps. I love those issues. So anyway, that's it. I hope you find it interesting, and I'm sorry if I'm like all over the pace. Hey, I can speak well too. But I just want to impress upon you that I really enjoyed this character, and I'd love to see a return. And if you'd love to see a return of it, I wouldn't say write your congressman. I mean, I'm sure Joe Staten would love to do it, but try and hit up some small press comic publisher. But I don't know. That seems a little ridiculous at this point. It's we've got a nice batch of stories, and it just needs to be packaged together. And that's about it. I ran out of things to say, clearly. So remember, I have 3 books, novels, prose novels on Amazon, published by DNY Books. It's called The Demands. It's about a young woman in Pittsburgh who forms an indie band, and everyone has their own agenda in the band, and they meet with the Russian mob in a very bad way, and they get involved by playing in clubs and bars owned by the mob unknowingly. And I might even have a couple of copies right here. I'm still new to this whole thing, so screw it. Anyway, just look up The Demands and Drew ACGERACI, and please, I'm begging you, hit the like button down below and hit subscribe, and hit write comments. I want ideas to do future episodes. I really do. I welcome any and all, and I'm not going to get into I'm not going to argue or anything. There's no bad ideas out there when it comes to comics. So hope to hear from you soon, and take it easy, everybody.